All right. We are back here at Song of the Day, coming to you from the Rock Cave. I'm your host, Mark Pierce. It is Tuesday, Tasty Tuneage Tuesday. Hard to miss Tasty Tuneage Tuesday. Running a little bit late today, however, is what it is, right? I'm excited about today. We're covering something new and different. Not so new, but different for the cave. Never covered here in the cave. And I heard a song the other day. And I was like, because I've been digging into my old mixes, and I was like, oh man, I haven't heard this one in a long time. This is so good. This is perfect for Song of the Day. Let me go do some research. And I knew enough about it, but I had not known some of the details. But we are going back to the early mid 70s, 72. I didn't even look up the year. 72, 73, somewhere around there. We're talking about the song Stay With Me by Rod Stewart? Not really. But that song came on, and then, oh man, I just cranked it. It was so good. I hadn't heard it in so long. But this song is by the band Faces, which I knew. Not The Faces, by the way. Always referred to as The Faces. It's just Faces. There's The Cars, right? They're not cars. But it's Coldplay. It's not The Coldplay, right? It's Faces. Just plain Faces. But you read about Faces and you're like, oh man, this sounds like a little bit like Spinal Tap. Because before they were Faces, they were the Small Faces. Not The Small Faces, just Small Faces. Formed in 1965. If you remember Spinal Tap, they were originally called the Originals. But then they figured out someone else was called the Originals. So then they renamed themselves the New Originals. And then Tamesmen. Then they were the Tamesmen, and then they were Spinal Tap. But Small Faces broke. They're formed in '65. They break up. The lead singer and guitarist goes to form Humble Pie, if you remember Humble Pie. And so the remaining Faces added Rod Stewart and Ronnie Wood coming over from Jeff Beck Group. And this was a weird situation. Rod Stewart had signed a solo agreement with Mercury Records, and the band was signed to Warner Brothers. This is very unusual to have a lead singer signed to a different label for a solo deal. And those two guys were some major songwriters, but the thing with this band is that a lot of other guys contributed songwriting, and even some of them would sing the songs that they wrote. So that was confusing for people because it wasn't always Rod Stewart singing. And when they would tour, Faces would play Rod Stewart's solo stuff concurrently. And so the band was starting to feel like people just thought they were his backing band, and it was just him solo. And they were getting frustrated, especially original members. So they were active from 69 to 75. They're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They did reform and did some stuff later and that kind of thing. But that's just all interesting story there. They only had one hit in the United States, and that is Stay With Me. It went to number 17. That's written by Ronnie Wood and Rod Stewart. Again, they came over from Jeff Beck Group, and then things start to go a little sideways for them. 1975, Ronnie Wood tours with the Rolling Stones, and by the next year, 1976, he's joined the Stones. And their drummer, Kenny Jones, in 1978 replaces Keith Moon after his tragic death in The Who. So yeah, a lot of maps and arrows here. The name of the album from Stay With Me is A Nod Is As Good As a Wink to a Blind Horse. Those of you who know. But anyway, I thought that this song, when I first heard it in probably the late 80s, early 90s, was because that Rod Stewart resurgence that he had with those Unplugged and Greatest Hits and Downtown Train, all those things. I thought he re-recorded the Faces version, but he didn't. That's the one you hear, and I think it says Faces on his Greatest Hits. So that's the one you hear. Great song, great guitar, great lyrics. Everything's so good. His voice, it's a barn burner, man. You gotta crank it up. If you haven't heard this one in a while, that's what you do, is crank it up. So today, your Tasty Tuneage Tuesday Tuneage tune is Stay With Me by Faces. Again, I want you to crank it up. If you're in your car, give it a little bit of bass, give it a lot, turn it up. You have to have speakers, people. That's all I'm saying, is you can't just listen to songs on your phones, your iPads, your computers. You gotta have a good setup in your life somewhere. because it's just a totally different experience when you really crank up music and you hear bass and quality sound. I'm a defender of that for sure. Whatever you're doing today, I hope it involves music as usual. I'll catch you on the flip side.
Get out, get up, get out, stay!